lawyer Edudzi this morning. And Edudzi, good morning. Good to see you. Long time no see.
Yes, my lady, good morning. Good morning to my very worthy co-panelists. And good morning to our cherished viewers. I've been away for a while. This morning, I just need to do this. There's a big sister of mine. Today happens to be her 50th birthday.
Wow.
Former ambassador to the Czech Republic, Ambassador Zita Sabah. Today happens to be her 50th birthday, and I just want to use this platform to wish her well. I think she has been on this platform as well. She's one of our formidable communicators as well. So happy birthday.
Certainly.
I think, yes, that said, once again, the person you just introduced, Dr. Riverson.
Yes, he'll be joining us.
Very well. And then the Chairman Kumi, who happens to be the chair of COMAC. Wherever they are, I want to greet them. The reason why I need to do this is yesterday there was almost a problem. And thanks to the intervention of these two gentlemen, Dr. Riverson Opon and the chairman of COMAC, Chairman Kumi, we've been able to agree on a roadmap. The timely intervention of the finance minister, the Honorable Kesola Forson Doctor, and my Honorable Minister and the GRA boss were able to come out with a roadmap for the implementation of this particular 1 Ghana cedi on every liter of petroleum product. What this has done is that constructive engagement has helped to avert what would have become an industry problem. And that is why I want to single out these individuals, particularly the oil marketing companies, for agreeing with government that instead of the implementation starting today, we'll stagger it or postpone it to the 16th. That's exactly a week today. And the reason is quite simple. You know, the oil marketing companies, when they go to buy their fuel, they also buy fuel to sell to us. What they usually do is to post bonds. They post bonds. By posting bond, you have to go to a bank or even an insurance company and pick up a bond. And the whole thing is that you are assuring government that upon finishing, the tax component and others, you will not be in default.
Okay.
So it is cash and carry. You have to pay before you are permitted to lift. So the concern they raised was that because the implementation is sudden, right, from last week, the law itself was passed, I think on the, I'll just find out, one of the Thursdays. Then the next time you are asking us to do
In fact, they used harsher words. You say sudden.
Yes,
they said
I know.
it's a matter of.
You know, I've read it. Okay. I don't want to go into.
I'll project it on the screen in due
military, in all of those. You know, I know my friend Riverson speaks well, so I can appreciate when he puts out a press statement and the details. But the short of it all is, we realize that yes, of course, they have raised very legitimate concerns. So once the matter came to the GRA commissioner and the finance minister, he felt that the concerns they have raised perfect. And that is why he said, look, in the circumstance, and if you read the statement carefully, COMAC is really not against the 1 cedi. It is the implementation, because to them, it is going to bring additional financial burden to them. And in the circumstance, they felt that it appeared more like a fiat. Let's just do it. And so the finance minister's intervention to allow the whole thing to move to next week will allow them to put their finances in place. And for me, this is welcoming. What it has done is that it has made my work a bit more easier for me at NPA, because the implementation is at my end, the downstream. And this would have created a problem. But thankfully, the finance minister saw wisdom in the concern they've raised and has agreed. And I've noticed that COMAC has also issued a statement to that effect. I just want to thank them for that magnanimity, in adverting a potential industrial action. Because what during the conversation, like today, it would have been difficult for anybody to lift products, and that would have created serious problem, in the whole country. Energy drives everything. Yeah. And once they say no, we are going to, it would have created a huge, and thank God that we've been able to raise this issue.
Edudzi, thank you for that foundation.
Yep.
Then let's take it back a few steps then. Why was the decision made to implement the levy with such urgency and what many are describing as limited consultation with key stakeholders?
I always say that we always have the benefit of learning from the experiences of life every day. If things don't happen the way they do, you may not have the opportunity of appreciating possible concerns. However, there were a few things that had put government to make a choice between the devil and then the deep blue sea. And I think that we need to possibly roll the scale a bit back. So you have a situation where in 2015, December, President John Dramani Mahama took arguably one of the most riskiest political decisions ever by any politician. Basically the passage of ESLA. Because prior to that, the bulk oil distributors and others have had an issue with government. So if you recall, there was an instance where it was difficult to lift petroleum products because of what they described then as the legacy debts. So Minister Setekwe and other stakeholders together, and that time, the legacy debts were even affecting the banks as well. So I remember Stanbic Bank boss, now Chief, and Danny, and Co came on board. And that resulted in the passage of ESLA, the Energy Sector Levies Act. Now, the whole idea was that this Energy Sector Levies Act, once received, will help us retire completely the legacy debts. And for banks, once the banks can see that every month you receive something, they are better off because then it does not become non-performing. At least there are performances with those loans. Now, fast forward, after the passage of it, the NPP comes to power. Now decides to incorporate what became known as ESLA PLC. Now, when they incorporated ESLA PLC, the debt at that time was $2.5 billion, with a view that we'll be able to do that payment. Only for government to incorporate ESLA PLC and now go for bonds. The expectation was that if you go for $6 billion in terms of bond, using ESLA receivables as collateral, you use that money to do what? To retire the debt completely. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So, with respect, for 8 years, the ESLA receivables could not retire the legacy debts. Even new debt started accumulating. Then comes the John Mahama administration, Ababu. Now with the second coming of President Mahama, if you recall, exactly on the 7th of January after he was sworn in, 2 days later, we started having power problems. You remember that? Then suddenly, our friends in the NPP started blaming President Mahama for bringing back doomsday. It was quite curious. That is a man who just took over barely 2 days, having been sworn in. We have a power crisis on our hands. President Mahama again had to put a team together to see what we can do to keep the lights on. Question, how do we keep the lights on? We needed to go and buy liquid fuel either diesel, light crude, to help keep the lights on. Now, with respect, these things don't come free of charge. They are quite expensive, particularly diesel. So you have a situation where from January to date, just one company, we owe them in excess of $200 million. That's so much. You can't keep accumulating that debt. So what do we do? And that is where I say we are caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Look, the budgeted amount of light crude or diesel or liquid fuel that we need for the whole year to keep the lights on is $1.1 billion. That's how much we need to keep the lights on. Would President Mahama take a decision that, oh, I have only 4 years mandate, I don't care. Let me accumulate the debts and go home. But as responsible father as he is, together with the finance minister and the governor of Bank of Ghana, do you know what they decided to do first? There are two critical components of fuel pricing in Ghana. The forest side and what we usually call the FOB side. Now, when we look at it, the impacts, we realize that the forest pact is huge. So what the minister decided to do first, that's Minister Atoforsen, decided to do first, is to work on the forest side first by ensuring the stability or appreciation of the Ghana cedi. What did we do with the gold board and all those other interventions? Today we have seen the Ghana cedi move from 15 cedis to almost 10.2. This morning I checked from the Bank of Ghana interbank rates, and it is doing 10.3, 10.2 from 15 cedis. So what has happened now is a significant gain, almost 40% reduction in terms of the forest rates. Now, what's the impact on fuel price? The cascading impact. Now, you notice that as at January 2025, when you go to the pump, a liter of, say, diesel was doing close to 16 cedis. 16 cedis. Now, because of the forex rate, that had come down to almost 10.77 from 16. Even less, for the sake of argument, even say 15. So from 15, we have come down to 10.7, and in some places, 11 cedis per liter.
Right.
So for you and I, the consumer of petroleum product, we have made almost 4 cedi gain on every liter. So what the finance minister decided to do was to work on the forex side. Having brought that stability and conscious of the fact that we will sustain it for a long time, came the conversation about the 1 cedi. Now, because the consumer is making 4 cedi gain, what government had decided, and with a lot of apology, is to say that you are making 4 cedi gain. Give us 1 out of the 4. Government is not asking for 2. Government is not asking for 3. Out of the 4 cedi gain, government is saying that please, 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 I am caught up in a situation, but I need to get the lights off. You remember, our friends in the NPP used to tease HE that we are going to have 24-hour doomsday. You remember?
That one I didn't hear.
Oh, no. In fact, it was the NPP immediately after President Mahama took on. Then they started calling it 24-hour doomsday. President Mahama doesn't want to leave a legacy of doomsday. Never. So what he has done is simple. That Ghanaians, out of the 4 cedi gain, by raising of the appreciation of the cedi, which is a government intervention. Remember that the CDJ didn't appreciate it. There had been very methodical intervention from government. Having done that,
Although, Edudzi, let me slide tackle you a little bit here.
please go ahead.
Because dissenters will say that this is a fluke, that you had no real hand in stabilizing the Ghana cedi. And for that reason, they say that the volatility that they think is inevitable could come back and bite government in the behind. Because there are assurance...
What are the concerns? The Ghana cedi just didn't appreciate it. There had been direct methodical intervention from government.
Edudzi, is this sustainable?
Yes. Look, at this point, even the fear is that we may even get to single digit. We'll get to single digits. Do you know why? The reason is that, first of all, those who used to speculate on it, now with the way things are going, persons who had kept dollars under their bed and others, now fear of losing the value. So even now, they are even now being forced to make some gain now before it gets to 8 or 9. So this thing is going to be very sustainable for a long time to come. These are pragmatic government policies that have been put in place. It just didn't, unlike, like in the past you say, magical, you have a magic wand, then you touch. No, this is policy mix that has resulted in this. But back to the issue. So basically what government is saying, which we have pleaded with Ghanaians to do, is that we need to keep the lights on. And in doing so, the 4 cedis, which is the gain on every liter, please, 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 keep 3 and give government 1. Now, the interesting part is that the 1 cedi on it is not even going to lead to a reduction, an increase in the price of petroleum products. And listen, I was part of this process. We had to run simulations with 50 pesos, 80 pesos, and 1 cedi. So it is not a decision that was just taken.
So you considered other figures?
Oh, different scenarios. If you do 50 pesos, what would the numbers look like? If you do 80 pesos, how would the numbers look like? If you do 1 cedi, how would the numbers look like? And I remember the finance minister, I could see the pain in his eyes. Because he kept saying that, look, Edudzi, this year I need over $1 billion to buy liquid fuel to keep the lights on. If I give all this $1 billion, I'll struggle with free SHS. I'll struggle with other social interventions. However, when the tariff was approved, guess what? Liquid fuel was not part of the tariff arrangement. I don't know if you get the point.
So that government was absorbing that cost.
Absolutely.
So this wasn't borne by the people. Government was actually paying for the fuel.
But you see, the question is, who ultimately ends up paying for that? You see, usually I want to avoid, because we are in government, I want to avoid the situation of, what happened in the past, but sometimes you are forced to get involved. Guess what? In the past, VRA used to be in charge of the purchase of liquid fuel for power generation. The NPP administration came and said, no, ECG should now take charge of that responsibility. The process of that purchase is not known. When I say it's not known, we get to buy it. How the procurement process is not known. So we have seen consistent accumulation also in that place. So the question was, if you do 1 cedi, assuming that annually we are doing 5 billion liters of white products, that gives us 5 billion for the whole year. Now, this is a situation where government is actually implementing this half year. So what it means is that even with the 1 cedi, you are not able to do the 1 billion cedis you need for liquid the purchase of liquid fuel. So even with the 1 cedi, there will still be shortfall. So the issues, the 1 cedi, even if we get that 1 cedi, we'll not be able to raise the $1 billion for the purchase of liquid fuel to keep the lights on. And so the government was put in a situation where, what do you do? And I've always been expecting my friends on the other side to provide what possibly would have been the alternative. Unfortunately, and I've heard Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia try to say, oh, we've cried here, a sunsi, levy, and what have you. I can understand him. When you want to lead again, with this kind, you want to engage in this. It's fair. Politics is fair.
Lady, 1 minute more for me, please.
So I want to say, and I want to wrap up by doing this, by saying that it is a very painful decision that had to be made. Why? President Mahama will feel so good. I've reduced, I've gotten the cedi appreciated. I've gotten the price of petroleum products down. That's a feel-good thing.
And we were enjoying it.
Absolutely. And look, the enjoyment affected me. I was excited about it.
Lawyer, did you somebody who said the party has been cut short?
No. What we have done is that it's a full cake, right? It's a full cake. That full cake was coming to you, arguably. We have always said, it is 4. Give us 1 and keep 3.
All right, Lawyer.
And the interesting part is that even with the 1 cedi addition on every liter, you will not get to the price at which, let me say, President Anadu left the price of petroleum product. No, we'll never get there. So the net effect is actually a further reduction.
Certainly. Lawyer Edudzi, I'll come back to you on this one specifically because even where you say, we've made some gains and you just want a little bit of it, fellow Ghanaians have some rebuttal to that, why they think they really should not be a part of this strategy. They say that there are many deep-rooted systemic issues which must be looked at. Lawyer Danko,
and I agree perfectly with them on that score.
Right.
Look, one of the things that we have said is that, listen, can we collectively ensure that the accounting processes of these levies are a bit more transparent in terms of what we use it for?
All right,
and the conversation is to ring-fence this one, particularly for this. And we'll open the books for everybody to see.
Certainly.